Taking photos of fast-moving sports is tough. Taking them in low light is even tougher. Think of an indoor basketball court, a local football match under floodlights, or maybe a dimly lit swimming pool. These places are where great action happens, but they are also a photographer's nightmare. The lack of light makes it incredibly difficult to get sharp, bright, and clean photos. Your camera struggles to see what is happening, often resulting in blurry action or dark, grainy images that just don't capture the energy of the moment. It's a common problem that frustrates so many budding photographers. This guide is here to help you conquer that challenge. We are going to break down the essential steps in a simple way. You don't need the latest, most expensive camera to get brilliant shots. In fact, these tips are especially useful if you are working with an older camera or a basic kit lens. We will explore the core settings that give you full control over your images, turning those frustrating dark moments into opportunities for dramatic, professional-looking photographs. It's really about understanding the fundamentals and making your equipment work for you, not against you. The secret isn't about buying more gear. It is about knowledge. By learning a few key principles, you can transform your photography. We will cover why shooting in manual mode is your best friend in these tricky lighting situations. We will also discuss the importance of file formats, specifically why RAW files give you a massive advantage over JPEGs when you start editing your photos later on. The goal is to give you the confidence to walk into any low-light sporting event and know exactly what you need to do to capture the action perfectly. Before we dive in, just remember that every camera is different. A brand new professional camera that costs thousands of pounds will naturally handle low light better than a 10-year-old entry-level model. Modern sensors are simply more advanced. However, the principles of photography remain the same. The techniques we are about to discuss are universal. They will help you push your current equipment to its absolute limit and get the best possible results, regardless of its age or price tag. So, let's get started on the path to mastering low-light sports photography. First things first, switch your camera to manual mode, often marked with an M on the dial. This might sound intimidating, but it is the key to consistency in low-light sports. In places like an indoor arena or under stadium lights, the light level is usually constant across the entire playing area. Once you find the right settings for that light, you can lock them in. In automatic or semi-automatic modes, your camera might change the settings every time a player moves from a slightly brighter spot to a darker one, leading to inconsistent photos. Manual mode puts you in complete control. The most important setting for freezing action is your shutter speed. For sports, you need a fast shutter speed to get sharp, crisp images. Think about how quickly an athlete moves. A slow shutter will just turn them into a blurry streak. As a starting point, aim for a shutter speed of at least 1/1000th of a second. This is fast enough to freeze the motion of a footballer kicking a ball or a basketball player jumping for a shot. If the light is extremely poor, you might have to go lower, but try to keep it as high as you possibly can. A sharp photo is always the priority. Next, let's talk about aperture. Your aperture is the opening in your lens that lets light into the camera. For low-light situations, you want this opening to be as wide as possible. On your lens, this is represented by the lowest f number, such as f2.8 or f4. A wider aperture lets in more light, which is exactly what you need when it's dark. This extra light allows you to maintain that fast shutter speed we just talked about without making your photo too dark. So, set your lens to its widest possible aperture and leave it there for the entire shoot. To recap, your first two steps are always the same. Get into manual mode. Then set your shutter speed to 1/1000th of a second or higher to guarantee you freeze the action and avoid motion blur. After that, open your aperture to the widest setting your lens will allow to gather as much precious light as you can. These two settings form the foundation of your exposure. Once they are locked in, you have one final setting to adjust to get the brightness just right, which brings us to our next section on ISO and file formats. Now that your shutter speed is fast and your aperture is wide open, you need to adjust your ISO to get the correct exposure. ISO is your camera's sensitivity to light. A low ISO, like 100 or 200, is great for bright sunny days, but in low light, you will need to increase it significantly. Don't be afraid to push your ISO up to 1600, 3200, or even 6400 if you need to. A photo that is bright and a little bit grainy is much better than a photo that is dark and unusable. The goal is to find the ISO that makes your photo look correctly exposed on the back of your camera. A common worry with high ISO settings is digital noise, which looks like fine grain or speckles in your photo. This is especially true for older cameras, as their sensors are less capable of handling high ISOs cleanly. However, it is often better to use a slightly higher ISO to get the exposure right in camera than to shoot a dark photo and try to brighten it later. Trying to rescue a severely underexposed image in editing software will almost always create more noise and blotchy colors than simply using the correct, higher ISO in the first place. This brings us to a crucial tip: always shoot in RAW format. A RAW file is like a digital negative. It captures all the data from the camera's sensor without any compression or processing. A JPEG, on the other hand, is a compressed file where the camera has already made decisions about color, contrast, and sharpening. RAW files are much larger, but they give you incredible flexibility in post-processing. You have far more room to adjust exposure, recover details from the shadows, and correct colors without degrading the image quality. This is a game changer for low-light work. Shooting in RAW gives you a safety net. If you slightly underexpose a shot to keep the ISO a little lower, a RAW file allows you to bring back that brightness and detail with minimal penalty. If you tried the same thing with a JPEG, you would quickly see the image fall apart, with ugly noise and strange color shifts appearing. For anyone serious about getting the best results, especially when dealing with the challenging conditions of low-light sports, switching your camera's file format to RAW is a non-negotiable step. It gives you the power to perfect your images later. Let's quickly review the process in the field. You arrive at the venue. You switch your camera to manual mode, marked with an M. You set your shutter speed to a fast setting, like 1/1000th of a second, to freeze the action. You then set your aperture to the widest value your lens offers, for example f2.8, to let in maximum light. Finally, you adjust your ISO until the test shots on your camera's screen look bright and well exposed. You are now ready to shoot, with settings that will remain consistent throughout the game, allowing you to focus purely on the action and composition. Once you have captured your images and the game is over, the work continues on your computer. This is where shooting in RAW really pays off. Load your photos into a program like Adobe Lightroom or Photoshop. The first step is often to tackle the digital noise that resulted from your high ISO setting. Both programs have powerful, easy-to-use noise reduction tools. A little bit of denoise can smooth out the graininess in your photos, especially in the dark backgrounds, making your subject stand out even more and giving the image a much cleaner, more professional look. Beyond noise reduction, post-processing is your chance to make your photos pop. You can adjust the exposure to perfect the brightness, increase the contrast to make the athlete stand out from the background, and lift the shadows to reveal hidden details. Sometimes, darkening the shadows and blacks can actually help hide noise and focus the viewer's eye on the most important part of the image. Experiment with these sliders. The goal is to enhance the drama and energy of the moment that you worked so hard to capture in the first place. Finally, the most important thing is to practice. Don't be afraid to experiment with your settings. Go to a local game and take hundreds of photos. See what works and what doesn't. Every venue has unique lighting, and every sport has a different pace. The more you shoot, the more intuitive this process will become. Mastering low-light sports photography is a journey, but with these fundamental tips, you now have a clear roadmap. So get out there, embrace the challenge, and start capturing some incredible moments.